Welcome to another episode of the Epic Family Road Trip.
In last week's episode of the Epic Family Road Trip, we shut down the cabin for winter and hit the road west across Canada to explore the backcountry of beautiful British Columbia.
Alright, in last week's video we ended up right here on top of Lake Superior. We carried up the Trans-Canada and we camped one night at Rainbow Provincial Park. The next morning we kept going. We worked our way up here and we stayed at a lake just up here. All these points will be on our GPX files on patreon.com. And then we carried on right across to the Manitoba border. We spent one night there. Next morning we buzzed around Winnipeg and made it all the way here to Saskatchewan, and we camped just inside Saskatchewan. Got up the next morning and carried on down here. So this morning, for the last couple hours, we've been driving through Saskatchewan and literally just field after field of wheat and barley and grain, all the different types of grain. But that's why they call this place the breadbasket of Canada. Right across all the way to, actually we stopped in Swift Current and found a place because it was getting late and we were tired. Yeah, the next morning we got up and crossed and went south, actually here through Lethbridge.
We just crossed into Alberta. So excited. It is super pretty out here. It's just horses and cattle and rolling hills. I love it. So right now we're just heading in and can't wait to get out to BC.
We're just coming through Lethbridge, Alberta, and you can see it's starting to get a little more rolling. Beautiful area. We just drove through the Frank slide where that whole side of the mountain collapsed way back. We came through here in early May, if you recall from our video, as we left BC and headed east. But yeah, it's amazing to see no matter what, just rocks strewn everywhere. Quite an interesting piece of history if you're ever this way in South Alberta. And this is called, on the border of BC, this is called Crow's Nest Pass area, and we spent a beautiful night, and we'll mark that spot. Man, we're at that point, we're in the mountains, so we're super excited. Hey guys, we just spent the night in Chinook recreational area here in Alberta, right near the Alberta-BC border. So if you're ever coming through Crow's Nest Pass and you're looking for a really nice place to camp, this recreational area, there's no one here, it's not monitored, but you just go online, go to reserve.albertaparks.ca, and it's a very simple procedure to book yourself a camp. You can see what's available, and they're all in the forest, surrounded by gorgeous mountains. There's a lake here. We didn't go down to the lake this time because we have the RV and it requires 4x4 to get down there, or to get back up. I talked to a fella, we just met a guy this morning who watches Epic Family Road Trip. That was really nice to meet him, but he said easy to get down there, but a whole different story coming back up. But anyway, if you're in this area, Chinook, it's just off the Trans-Canada Highway. Check it out. Got up the next morning and went into what's called Elk Valley of BC, in past Sparwood. We stopped in Fernie for a minute and then worked our way up here to Radium Hot Springs. which is where we are at the moment. All right, we are now in southeastern BC and heading up to Radium, which is our favorite place so far in BC. But we absolutely love this country. It's absolutely gorgeous. Reminds us of Central Oregon or even Flagstaff area. It's just one of those gorgeous places, and the fresh mountain air, the smell of pine trees. It's one of our favorite places to be. And just look at the scenery, no matter where you look, it's absolutely beautiful.
Alright, so we have made it back into Radium Hot Springs here in BC, but we're going to be camping here for the next 2 days with the RV. We just got a spot to drop off our RV where it can just be in storage for the next couple months while we're on our trip, and it'll just be a safe spot where we can leave it. But over the next few days we're going to be emptying it all out, getting all the gear that will be essential to our travel in the Jeeps back into the Jeeps, and then all of our food back in there. Just getting all prepped to leave.
And so now you kind of get a picture of how far we've come crossing from Ontario to BC. Several thousand miles and 3,000 roughly kilometers. And so now we're going to work our way up into BC and hopefully into Yukon. It all depends on weather and on what's allowed at this point in time. But right now we're emptying the RV, loading what we need in the Jeeps for the next month or so while we head north. Making sure we take winter gear because it's supposed to be cold up there, and our hiking gear because we're hoping to do some nice hikes.
Alright, so we got the RV in storage now. We're back in the Jeeps and on the trails again. Right now we're on a beautiful back road. We're just winding through the mountains here.
Heading into the West Kootenays to a mountain range called the Buggaboos. We've heard a lot about it, and when we were here last time, a lot of the locals suggested we come up here, but there was too much snow. And now, this time of year, the roads are clear, and we are really excited to get there. And then we're gonna find a nice camp spot, and we're gonna take you with us every step of the way and show you some absolutely beautiful British Columbia scenery. Hey, we're near the end of the Bugaboo Trail, about 3 kilometers from Bugaboo Provincial Park. But this is called the Bugaboo Recreation Area. And there's a waterfall right here, just absolutely gorgeous. And there's a bit of a camp here. So we're gonna mark this on GPS so that you can camp here if you want. You could fall asleep to the sound of a rushing waterfall. There's a fire pit. You're even glamping. There's in the forest you can see a little bit of a toilet room. So this is a pretty nice spot. We're extremely remote in the mountains, and behind us we're going to go a little further, but you can see glaciers and snow-capped mountains. So a lot more to explore out here. So there's a lot of rock climbing that happens up here, and we just passed a couple of rock climbers, so we moved over, and Pete went in the ditch there, but managed to get out no problem. We just pulled over. If you recall, if you've been watching us for a while, back in New Mexico, we had to cut a piece of this. It was rubbing against the tire, and you can see how close that is. So we're gonna have to do a quick, I'm not sure why that moved, maybe going over a bump back there. Lando, it's okay, buddy. Lando wants to go running, but we're gonna have to cut it temporarily and just kind of clean it up. Looks like a rivet.
Screw ripped, yeah.
Okay.
Got it. Should I cut this?
If you can pop it back, that might work, but otherwise we'll just
This
cut
thing
it.
cracked. That's the problem. That rivet cracked.
All right, let's see. Yeah, I think you're gonna have to cut it like this.
Everything that should be touching.
All right. A bunch of you have asked us to show how we use the EFRT knife in practical daily life, and there's a good example right there. This little guy is very sharp. It's a extremely solid knife, and it's a multi-use knife, so it can be used for all kinds of things. We've done everything from cutting herbs for dinner out of the garden to something like we just showed you there. So this is the EFRT knife, and it's available. You just have to email peter@workplaycare.com. So we've reached the end of the road. The Buggaboos are those big spires, really neat formations, which you'll see in the video, and they're surrounded by a gorgeous glacier. Very, very beautiful area. We're gonna go find a campground, and we'll mark it on the map, and we're gonna start cooking some dinner. We're pretty hungry. We just noticed all the cars here they have some kind of chicken wire fence, and then pieces of wood leaning up against them, and there's nothing to indicate what it's for, but I'd imagine maybe some kind of small animals or rodents, or who knows, would get up in the cars, because it looks like these folks go on a long 7 or 8 day hike, so they're leaving these things for a week. We found this beautiful trail, logging road, and it comes way back in here, and you get great views of the Buggaboos. But I marked it on the GPS, but there's a huge log that the logging company, I guess, put across the road. So that's the end of the trail for us anyway. It's too big to move, and it looks like they don't want people going past that point. So we're gonna go back up the hill and try to find a camp spot. So we drove back partway back to the park there, and we found this little clearing, and through the trees we can see the Buggaboos. I think we found ourselves a good spot for the night, so we're gonna get the vehicles leveled out and let's get some food on, get a fire going.
Eating some nice easy Roman noodle soup with some beef and some onions, watching the sun go down, all kind of dusty from the trail. There's nothing like it, but this is absolutely gorgeous. So yum yum.
Delicious meal.
Ready?
so charge everything up. So as you know, fire safety in the forest is incredibly important. We see all those fires going on in California and Oregon right now, Washington, and even southern BC. There's 7,000 hectares burning down there. So we spoke with a firefighter from the Ministry of Natural Resources when we first got here, and he explained up here fires aren't banned right now. You're allowed to have a fire 1.5 feet, no bigger than 1.5 feet. And we showed him our fire reflector kind of windscreen, and he thought that was a great idea because wind is your enemy when you have a fire and a forest fire. So yeah, the fire needs to be small, kept under control, and then when you leave you have to make sure it's dead out, and what he said was it's got to be cold to the touch. So we still have to pack up our tents and everything, so we put the fire out, and that gives time for the water to kind of soak in, and then before we leave the property we'll give it another dose of water and feel it with our hands, put our hands on the coals and make sure it's completely cold to the touch. So there's still a bit of warmth in there, but like I said, in a few minutes or in 20 minutes we'll come back, soak it down one more time, and then we should be good.
We hope you all enjoyed this episode of the Epic Family Road Trip. Stay tuned for next week's episode as we continue on our journey north, exploring the epic backcountry of beautiful British Columbia.
And in the meantime, we'll see you down the road.